Hey Tim, how are you? Just trying to get it on the other phone so I can see the messages. Here we go. Hey Tim, hi Josh, hi Kev. Yeah, doing well. Doing an early session tonight. Hey James, Ramez. My first smoke in this little Dunhill 9mm, which I bought together with a Dunhill stand. You may have seen that on my desk. It's a Group 3, but actually it says Group 4, but I reckon that it's been trimmed at some point in the past, possibly, I don't know. But it's quite a little dinky pipe, and I'm smoking some Northwoods. I hope that alarm's not going to keep going off, because if I go off the screen, we're going to end up with a black screen again, which is going to get on everybody's nerves. Hey Todd. Well, I'm now up to date with my pipe shipping. All pipes have gone. So I expect you all to be receiving your pipes in the next week or so. And I really would appreciate people who bought in the auction. I'd appreciate it if they would let me know when they receive their pipes, so I can finish off and get all the money sent off. I'm just a bit nervous. I don't want to send the money off until all the recipients have received their pipes, because I don't want any issues with somebody paying for a pipe, not getting it, and I've already sent the money on. So I've been in touch, and it's all going to happen as soon as possible. But I just thought I'd better play safe. I've got in touch with Sarge over the weekend. So that I can get in touch direct with John's wife. And there we go. So tonight, I'm making a start on this pipe here. And I'm going to try and give it a bit more of a Danish look to it. The problem that I've got is that so many times I start off a pipe, and I've for a long time wanted to make a pipe which is part smooth and part either blasted or part rusticated. And the problem is, it's not a problem, it's a blessing that 9 times out of 10, the grain is just that good that it's just a travesty to rusticate. To sandblast, the jury's out. Some people like a sandblast in of itself, and some people use it when the bri is not great. For me, sandblasting, I only send pipes off for sandblasting when I can see good potential for a ring grain. For me, sandblasting on its own is a very attractive finish. In some cases, I prefer it to smooth. I think from a functionality point of view, I think it's also got a certain utility in that it keeps the pipe a little bit cooler. And I just love the look and feel, the texture, the tactility of a sandblasted pipe. I custom ordered a pipe from a German pipe maker known as Kroll Pipes. Originally, what I ordered was a sandblasted bowl, smooth shank. Sent me pictures the other day, a completely smooth pipe. He said the same thing. It just would have been a travesty to sandblast the pipe, and he offered me the opportunity, do I want it or not? And hey, Victorian. And initially I said I'm going to pass, because I wanted it to be part sandblasted, and so I think he was a little bit put out because this pipe was made for me, and I actually didn't realize that this was the pipe he was making for me because I had asked for a sandblasted pipe. But what he was saying was that he'd made the pipe with me in mind, but essentially, and I thought because it hadn't come out the way I'd originally envisaged, I was being given the option to choose whether I do or don't want it. And basically he said was that, you know, if you don't want it, that's fine, but I'm not going to make you another one to try. Just look at my shop. If you see a pipe you like, whenever they come up, buy it. So I could see that he was obviously upset. And, well, not upset, but he just felt that, you know, he's done his bit. And anyway, I wasn't going to... I know what it feels like. You know, I've had people say that they're going to buy pipes and they don't end up buying it. I'm very easy that way. You know, if people do a commission pipe and they don't like it, I say to them, you've got absolutely no commitment until you've seen the finished pipe, and if you like it, you then decide. My pipes have been selling well enough that, you know, I am sitting on a fair few pipes, but overall they've been selling well enough that if a person doesn't buy it, you know, it'll sell another day. I certainly wouldn't want somebody taking home a pipe that they didn't want. I had just the other day a couple of two-star pipes that I'd made. Somebody emailed and said, yes, we agreed on a price, fine, no problem, they're mine. So I said, you want me to mark them as sold? Because usually I don't reserve. You pay it, it's yours. You don't pay it, it's open to anybody to buy. But he said he's going to pay the next day, so I said, fine, no problem. The next morning he had changed his mind and he'd slept on it, and that's fine. You know, again, you know, I know what it's like myself. I certainly don't want to put anybody in a position where they're going to have to feel a pressure to buy the pipe. But I didn't want this guy to have felt he made me a pipe and I've turned him down. So I bought it. It's a lovely pipe, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful pipe. You'll see it when it arrives. Hey, Rubber Gum. It wasn't about me being fussy about the pipe quality. The pipe's a gorgeous pipe, you'll see it, but it's not what I ordered. But I totally get where he was coming from in that, you know, it's a shame to waste a good grain. So I went along with that, and that's fine. Worst comes to worst, if I really, really want to still sandblast it, I could get it sandblasted, which would be an odd thing to do, to sandblast somebody else's work, but... we'll just wait and see. Hopefully when it arrives, it'll be fine. I think that's a little bit rough, Tim. I don't think he was being disingenuous. What he was saying was that... right, I'll tell you the full story, because then maybe otherwise I might be being a bit disingenuous. I originally ordered... he had made a pipe in the past. I looked through his pictures on his feed on Instagram, and I picked out a pipe which I really, really liked. And I said, please, can you make me a pipe like that? He said, yeah, sure, no problem. He made one similar. He made one similar. He sent me the pictures, but I didn't like it. And I'll tell you why. It's not just I just didn't like it. The way he made the pipe had a similar kind of fanned out shank face over here. But what he did was that he'd placed the stem in the center of that and then squared off the bottom. Whereas he should have really placed it in the center after squaring it. In other words, he should have visualized it beforehand. And what happened was the pipe looked completely out of balance, out of whack. What you had was, you had this flare up here. If you can imagine that being squared off like that, and the stem, now you'd expect, if you imagine that was like that, you'd expect the stem to be in the middle there, but instead he had it down there, because the risk of going off screen. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to put up with that alarm every 10 minutes or so. Essentially, when you looked at it, the stem was right at the bottom of the shank. It just didn't look right. It looked completely off whack. So I said to him, I'm sorry, but lovely pipe, but it doesn't look right. That should have been in the center. So that was that. He said he'll do another one, and this was the second one. So I guess he was probably thinking that I was just a time waster, maybe, but I don't think I was unjustified in any way, shape or form. But the bottom line is, I didn't want him going away feeling bad, and I paid for the pipe. He'd made a nice pipe for sure, and this time he did it right. He'd still squared off the bottom, but he made sure that the stem was in the middle. So to me, I felt justified in my complaint originally, and we shall see the results next week sometime, hopefully. Should be during the course of next week, because it's coming from Germany, so it shouldn't take that long. Usually takes 2 or 3 days. Should we get cracking with this pipe? So, what's everybody else been up to? You guys know that I've been struggling a lot with getting bands, and I've realised, I mean, I knew this anyway, but I assumed that it could be done. I mean, obviously it can be done because other pipe makers use them, but basically, in order for me to really move ahead with putting bands on, wooden bands, exotic wood and that kind of thing, I'm going to have to get a machining lathe. There's no two ways about it. I'm going to have to get a metal lathe. And that's the only way to really cut things precisely. And it just occurred to me the other day as a simple lightning bolt that I'm struggling here thinking about a device, a tool. Josh, I looked into those plug cutters. They're all the same. They all chamfer at the end. I haven't yet found one which will give me that finish. And as I was thinking about it, I think I was just lying in bed, awake, and it just occurred to me that that's really the only answer. Because even if you develop a skill in cutting straight, that my main problem is the back face, where the band goes and meets with. And however good you are, it's going to be hit and miss every time. You can never be 100% sure that it's going to be precise. I chose this pipe tonight because once I get into the sanding and the cutting and whatever, I can't really smoke. Too much going on. So I figured a short bowl should do it nicely, and I'm almost at the end of the bowl already. All right, I'm going to put that aside. Have another swig. Oh, Victorian Piper, you are a busy man with some seriously important stuff going on in your life. Namely, watching me. Killing a few zombies, good for you, Tim. Are you mowing them down with your lorry or not? Or just using a good old machine gun? I've forgotten that I trimmed this on the bandsaw, so I need to just redraw some lines here. That doesn't look quite right, does it? Too many lines on there. Baseball bat. You're not far off from being a zombie yourself. Baseball bat, crying out loud. Football hooligan. This briar is a really nice piece of briar, but it's a little bit unwieldy. So I've got to be careful how I mount it. Oh, I see, you're one of those games where you got to make everything from scratch, right? You got to earn your keep. Ouch, just hurt myself. Pick a line, any line. How you doing, Jim? 416. Is that you, George? Or am I mixing you up? Jordan is in the house. How you doing, Jordan? 7 days to die. You start with nothing and have, well, that's life, innit? And have to get a base built and supplies, etc. Every 7 days, a zombie horde comes along that you need to survive. Jordan's going to be in and out. Well, I'm going to be on for about another hour or so, and then I've got to go out as well. So we're just feature of tonight. Do apologise. It's either that or a black screen. So I'm not happy with the way this is lining up. All right, I'm going to sand the lines out and start the lines again because I'm not happy. Bear with. Cool, George, welcome aboard. Millville pipe to work tonight, nice one. I've got one Millville pipe, one genuine Millville, and it smokes very well. I put a new stem on it, a new 9mm stem. Didn't do the greatest job, but it smokes very well. Black screens matter, very good, Jimmy. Very, very good indeed. I watched a video by Ben Shapiro recently. I used to watch him a lot, but I don't really watch him that much anymore. It's all kind of very samey, and he's a bit screechy. But he had a guest on, a black woman, I can't remember her name, but very, very interesting to watch. Basically, she does not subscribe to Black Lives Matter. The concept, obviously Black Lives Matter, but she doesn't subscribe to the whole movement. And she's fed up of people sort of living off their victimhood. Nobody's trying to undermine the history, but sort of she's basically saying, get on with it. Go get a job. She says there's a whole generation of black people who are suffering because they're just not doing anything, because they're just living the life of a victim, and it's basically demotivating them. And instead they're not getting ahead. So as bad as it all was historically, but don't let that run your life, because basically there's a whole generation, she says, of black people who have not moved ahead in their lives. And she says Black Lives Matter movement is detrimental for black people for that reason. And I hear where she's coming from on that. Yeah, absolutely, George. You can't talk about it. You know. Hi, Chad. I figured you might have known about that one. Did you see the video, Chad? There was another video. I can't remember who actually hosted it. I think I've mentioned it before. You haven't seen it, but it was her. The name is right. Perhaps she's famous in America for that. I don't know, for holding that view. But there was another video which was hosted by, I'm sure I've mentioned it already before, it was hosted by a white Jewish guy, and he had half a dozen black philosophers or very leading lights in America who happen to be black. And pretty much, I would say, to each person, to a man and a woman, there were women, a mixed kind of group, and each one pretty much said the same thing. You know, you might say that they're privileged because they've sort of made it, but they've made it because they didn't rely on victimhood. Brett Weinstein, there you go, Chad knows it all. And that was also a very eye-opening video to watch. I found it a little bit underwhelming. I expected more, but still, You know, when you put together that amount of group of people, I found it to be a little bit of an anticlimax. But maybe that was just from an entertainment point of view. I don't know. But it was interesting nonetheless. Right, let's get this thing on the road. Right, I should really subscribe to them as well, I guess. But there's just a limit to how much you can subscribe to, Chad. I know you've mentioned before that you're subscribed to a whole host of people, but it's time. It's all about time. It's why I do so many things at once. It's why you see me doing the drive videos. It's because otherwise I just wouldn't have the time. So it's just about cramming in what you can. And yes, it is a bit ad hoc at times and unprepared and garbled for that reason, but overall, hopefully, comes across in a reasonable fashion. One of the reasons why I'm working early tonight and doing London Calling whilst making a pipe is because I've got a whole season of festivals coming up now, and I'm going to have very little time to do a lot of that kind of stuff. So I want to get some pipes made and obviously still have London Calling going at the same time. So there we go. I've noticed that, George. I know your comments are usually about a week or so behind, but I appreciate every single one of your comments. I try to answer as many as I can. Now on this, I want to have it like a fanned out shank. I want to try and keep this profile, but obviously in a circular fashion. So I'm going to try and do that. Two pipe night? No. That won't be time for two pipes tonight, I don't think. Let's see if this is still sharp. I sharpened this the other day. I'm just going to give this a blast on the grinder. Ad hoc, you know, like I said. What I've taken to doing now is keeping the live center in and putting that into the stem, and then just rotating it a little bit to tighten it, and it just helps keep things together nicely. Sometimes when you're spinning, the stem twists open a little bit. I'm probably going to end up selling the Mazda, yeah. One of my sons actually might buy it, we'll see, not sure. So I'll have to give him a special rate, but yeah, if I can sell either that, I have to be realistic about it, and it's got to be the Mazda. As much as I like that car, it's really nice to have a nice sort of fresh kind of car, but it was just playing havoc with my back, and just not worth it, as much as I wanted to keep it. Thank you, George. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Your package is en route. Got to be careful not to go too thin here because it's going to be at an angle, so this is going to be quite close to the top of the draft, so I've got to make sure there's enough width there. That Mazda, Jimmy, I have actually got sort of kind of been thinking about actually keeping it on ice somewhere and letting it become a classic, because it's low mileage, it's in really, really nice condition, even though it's 14 years old. Given another 10, 15 years, it'll be a bit of a classic. I'm kind of tempted to put it on ice somewhere, but because I won't get my money back for it, that I know. But that's a little bit of too much of a luxury to be sitting on a car like that. This bit's going to be rusticated, so I'm not going to spend too much time sanding it. I just want to make sure that the shape is nice. Now, I'm sorry that the camera is actually attached to a cover attached to the wall, and the wall is attached to the lathe, and so it is a bit shaky. I apologize for that. Got a sand pit there. Hopefully, I've got to check if it goes right through in a minute once I've drilled the draft. What did I do there? Don't know. If there's a fill, if it goes right through, then that's kind of catastrophic, and you kind of got to chuck it, or you keep it for yourself. There is a significant pit there. Once I drill it, I've got to see if any light goes through. If it doesn't, rusticate it, and as long as that gets rid of and it gets absorbed into the rustication and it doesn't go deep, it's okay. That's why people rusticate pipes. But if it goes right through, and then that's obviously an issue. And probably because it's a nice piece of briar, I probably won't chuck this one. I'll probably fill it, put some sand dust in there, briar dust in there, super glue it, and then rusticate it, and that'll be absolutely fine to smoke. So I'll either keep that myself if it goes right through, or if I do sell it, then it will be with that knowledge, that's for sure. I would never palm it off without telling the people about the issues of the pipe. Right, this is actually quite a nice little finish here, a little beveled edge on the shank face. It's quite like that. Hey Donald, welcome aboard. I'll give you a break from the earthquake vision. I'll relight my pipe for a minute. Smoking this little Group 4 Dunhill. It says Group 4, feels more like a Group 3, even smaller maybe. Alright, well that's looking pretty good. Happy with that. Thank you, George. The apples have been going well. I have to agree with you on that. Once you kind of, in your mind, you get your head around the shape, and you do it a few times, it becomes relatively straightforward. It's not a very complicated shape once you get your head around it. That sort of apple shape, it takes time till you get your head into it. And that's when you're sanding and when you're shaping it on the wheel, till you kind of own the shape. I'm not saying I'm there, but certainly a lot better than when I first tried doing apple shapes. I always found it difficult getting this bit right, the bit where it meets the shank, and that's, you know, it's going pretty well. I think this bowl is pretty much done. Okay, next up, I'm going to drill the draft. This is the bit, it's whether it goes through the top of the shank or not. It's protesting, that's for sure. Right, well, it's hit dead center in the bottom of the mortise, so that's a start. Next bit is to drill the bowl, and that's where we shall see if we've lined it up right or not. And I'm not 100% sure now that it's lining up with what I originally marked. Chances are that it's actually going to be a little bit higher, so I'm going to mark it short and then go very gingerly through as I drill it. That's just about perfect, wherever it was. It's about 3 or 4 mil short of where I marked it. So, we shall see. George, you're a kind soul. Right. The platter head is actually very level, so I might keep it. Not sure yet. Once I've turned it, we'll see. I'm always in two minds about that, because you don't see that many high-end pipes with plateau, but a lot of people like plateau. Not that I make high-end pipes, but certainly you want to aspire to make the best pipes that you can. Hey Mark, how you doing? Welcome aboard. this is where you start to get nervous, because you're never sure if you've drilled the draft a little bit too short, and you keep drilling, and you end up going way past the hole, and you end up having a pipe which isn't really up to mustard. But you've got to trust your marking up. You've got to trust at least the length of the drill bit, so you just got to trust it. Nope. And we're we may have just hit it. Sometimes when you're drilling, you can detect the slightest change of pitch in the drill noise when you hit the draft hole. We may have hit it. No, we have not. Now I'm getting nervous. Now I'm getting nervous. Let's do this. Actually, I left the tape on, shouldn't I? No, we're okay. So hopefully it's all right. Hey, Boris. We should be just about to hit it now. And there we go. Very nicely positioned. Just going to take it down a little bit lower. North Country, how you doing? Okay, I think we're good to go. We'll go down a fraction more, I think, just to make sure that there's no wells at the bottom, which might create some gurgle. No, still need a bit more. Oh, still a fraction more. All right, that's it. Okie dokie, we are good. Very, very good. Good evening, Daniel. Welcome aboard. How are you? It's not exactly even. So the thing is that when you're doing a plateau, if one side is lower than the other, then the rim thickness of the wall is wider because it's not quite level. So it tapers, obviously. So the higher you get, the thinner the walls get. So at the highest point, it's a certain thickness. If the plateau is lower on one side, then it's thicker. It just doesn't look as balanced. With plateau, and that's fine. But it kind of, I think, takes away a little bit from the overall look of the pipe. So I'm probably going to take the plateau off. At least we'll get the benefit of nice bird's eye from the plateau. And I think it just looks cleaner that way. It's a matter of taste, really. I can see there's quite a good ring grain on that too. I used to do as well, part plateau, leaving a little bit on. And I do that occasionally, so there's a little bit there, but again, I do feel sometimes that that's a bit untidy. This is going to be, it may well be an apple, kind of billiard stroke apple, somewhere in between probably. It's got potential to be a really nicely shaped. I'm just looking at it and seeing the way that could go, the rest of it down beyond the smooth bit, and it looks like it could be really good. So I'm just going to smooth that off a little bit to make it easier to sand. A little bit of a scratch here. Just want to get rid of. It's still there. It's like just an imperfection in the briar. It's not. It doesn't look like a sandpit. It's the same color as the briar. It's almost as if somebody's taken a screwdriver and whacked it. It's just some kind of imperfection which I just need to get past. No, it's still there. Go higher grade, or lower grade I should say. That is very weird. Still there. Don't actually know what it is. That is very odd. Don't know if you could see it. Right. It's going to be too dark, I guess. Still there. Well, I might have to leave it. Yeah, I don't know how deep that will go, and I could end up sanding and sanding and sanding, so. No, if it goes tapering, it won't help. If it's going deeper, then tapering it will just highlight it. So I'm just going to leave that for now, and it'll get incorporated into the grain. I'm not too worried about it. It's really a very thin line. That should be fine. Right, so I think that's as far as I can go on the lathe. Right, I'm conscious of time, so the sanding will have to take place either later tonight, which is it's already 25 to midnight, so that's unlikely. So I'll just spend some more time with you and finish off my bowl if I can find it. There it is. Can't get it lit. That probably means that there's no backy left in there. Well, the staining will be a sort of a contrast stain anyway, so that should hide it, hopefully. What the hell's going on with this pipe? All right. So this is where we're at the moment. So that's going to curve round under there and curve round hopefully to a nice apple / egg shape, something like that. Nice, slightly, very slightly domed rim. And there is some nice bird's eye on there. You can see the mark just there. But you can just make out the bird's eye on there. And some grain on the side. Well, that's a good question, Daniel. I started off and I was a complete Cumberland devotee. And I still do enjoy smoking them. But it was really all about how well the bit was shaped. That's something which I've come to realize in my own personal experience. Some people still prefer ebonite. Cumberland is is ebonite. It's just a mixture of colours, but it's basically, or brindle as Mike calls it. But Cumberland certainly is more comfortable to the teeth. It's kinder to the teeth. But I found that I as long as you shape the bit, the button, well, and you make it comfortable, whether you're one of these people that make sharp edges, or a convex sort of face of the bit, whichever shape you do, it makes no difference. As long as it's comfortable, and your customers like it, I actually now, I think I prefer acrylic. I'm not 100% sure on it because I still very much like ebonite in terms of the fact that it's not as brittle, if you like, on the teeth. It's like because it's got a certain amount of rubber in ebonite, it's essentially a rubber derivative. So there is a certain give to it. But I'm finding that in terms of what I work with, I'm currently now working 99% of the time with acrylic. Hey Ken, how you doing? The button, the final inch, the bite zone for me is probably more important, but the button still has to be comfortable, because if you end up having, this is a classic Dunhill English style thing where you've got that curved sort of face of the bit, but sometimes some English pipes especially, you get them and this top edge here can be quite sharp. These corners, these two edges here can be quite sharp, and you can find that after a while it kind of catches on the corner of your mouth, just there, or wherever it is you clench. It just catches and it starts to just get on your nerves. And what you'll find over time is that you'll reach for pipes. You may not even realize why. It might be subconscious, but you just reach for the pipes that you're most comfortable with. And if you've got a pipe, you might have a Dunhill pipe which you've paid $500 for, you might still not reach for it because it's not as comfortable. So I always round off the edges. And it's just so that even when you just slip it in your mouth, it just doesn't catch. Sometimes you do it and it catches on the corner of your mouth. And so for me, I find it's important to just round off all the edges of the button. You don't want to round it off too much because obviously you still want to have something for your grips to clench, for your teeth to clench. It's got to be a raised area, obviously. I see some high-end pipes where they're done beautifully, but they leave such a small ridge that it's almost difficult to clench, and the balance sometimes is off because you've got a beautiful bit of briar here, and you've got this tiny, slender little bite zone here area, and it's completely incongruous with the rest of the balance of the pipe. And you've got so much weight on that tiny area. So it's about getting the balance right, so you can still have a very slender, thin bite zone, but at least have some width, what they call the fishtail. Have it spread out so that way there's balance. There's balance of it. There's enough stem hanging on your teeth to just balance everything out. I find that's important. As I say, I'm really inexperienced with all of this stuff, but I'm learning as I go on, and those are the kind of things which are important to me. So the bite zone, yes, of course, you want it to be as thin as possible. I've actually got to make a move in a minute. So that is very important. So for me now, the stem material is less important, because as long as you get that bit comfortable, it's not so important to me, But I think now, even custom companies like Castello, Savinelli, they're all using acrylic, most of them. It's really only the very, very high enders that still stick with ebonite. I don't like cutting ebonite because it stinks when you cut it, and acrylic doesn't. But that's just you get used to that. That's not a reason why I don't use it as much. When I cut my own stems from scratch, then I often will do that generally from ebonite. That's true because they're softer. I have started, I did one or two with the Eldritch rock stock. Hey Izzy, how you doing? Shavua Tov. You just caught me for the last couple of minutes because it's first night tonight and I'm off soon. His stuff cuts beautifully. His stem material is the easiest to work with. It's soft. I've struggled with bending his stems, but if you're doing a straight stem, I think that's one of the best materials I've ever come across. It really is fantastic. You have the flexibility and softness of ebonite. It's even softer than ebonite, I think, but it doesn't oxidize. So you have the beauty of acrylic and ebonite in one stem material. In terms of the P-lip stem, it doesn't come into play anywhere. It's just a question of whether you like that kind of direction of smoke. The P-lip concept is that it directs the smoke out of the top of the stem, so it hits the roof of your mouth and spreads out in the roof of your mouth rather than coming out of the front and hitting your tongue. I personally don't like it. I find that all it does is it burns the roof of your mouth instead of your tongue. And whatever reason that you are getting tongue bite, you've still got to deal with. So whether you're too fast or whether too wet or whatever it might be, that gives you tongue bite, or maybe just your mouth chemistry is very susceptible to tongue bite, you've still got to deal with that. So there we go. Gentlemen, I'm going to wish you all well. Thank you very much for joining me on this early London calling session. I'm going to call it a day. I doubt that I'll be back on later tonight. It's possible. I might be just too excited to get this finished. I'll be back home probably in about an hour and a half. but we shall see. Chances are I'll carry this on tomorrow. I'm going to wish you all well. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, James. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Daniel. As always, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you, George, Jimmy, James, and everybody else. Have a wonderful weekend. What's left of it. And Jeff, of course. Thank you. Catch you on the next one.